Now we're going to continue with logical operators, and what we're going to do is move into a bit of a different kind of operator. And now we're going to get into compound conditionals. So we've been doing just one comparison in these cases here. We're going to move forward and do it a little bit more complex. So I'm going to create a demarcation, so logical operators, and this is going to be things like R and so let's see here, I want to put my semicolon. What these are going to look like is, for example, we're going to do a comparison like this. So I'm going to have if input greater than 10, and we want to say also if it's less than 50, so we're going to have another here, so input less than 50. Now, this is not valid syntax because we need to signify that it is an and. So to do that, we use this. So I'm just going to put these like that. And then the R is going to be what's called pipes, like that. And that's usually around above the return key. And also it should have the backslash on that key, and the pipe would be above that backslash. So here we're saying if the input is greater than 10, not equal to it, just greater than, and it's also less than 50, so that should be 1 less than, then we can do something. So if the user types in 10, this is not going to work. So what we're doing here is signifying a range of values that the user's input can fall into, and something like 49 would work, 11 would work, 15 would work, 50 would not work because we're just saying less than 50. So let's go ahead and do a cout. And what we're going to do here is the value of the input is between 10 and 50. And we say in between, not equal to 10 and 50, but just in between. It doesn't include 10 or 50. So the value of the input is between 10 and 50. And then what we want to do is catch everything else. So we're going to create a default, which is our else. And else doesn't really care what's going on. As long as this is not met, it will run. So for this else, we're going to do a cout and say something like the value of, let's just do input, is not between 10 and 50. Just remove the on that one. All right, so we can go ahead and run this now. So we're making use of the captured value from further up inside of our file. So let's do 15. And let's see what we get here. We need a line break. So the value of the input is between 10 and 50. So that was good. This first conditional ran. And we're just going to add a line break there. Save. Okay, so that concludes conditionals. What we're going to do now is look at arrays. And just put another return there. Line return. All right, so for arrays, I'm going to create one. It's going to have space for 5 elements. And I'm going to initialize it as well. So I'll do an open and close curly brace. And then in here, I'll have my various elements separated by commas. And let's see, here's, all right, so that updated, that looks good. Now what I'm going to do is output some of these values. And we're going to have a little bit of instructions. So just kind of setting up what's going to go on here. So it is very easy to access any index in an array. Now an index is the number you'll supply to access an element inside of the array. This array has 5 elements. It's a 0-based index, so it's going to go from 0 to 4, not 1 to 5. And just don't get the indexes confused with the actual element values. So here's how it will work. We're going to capture some input from the user. We'll say please input, an index between 1 and 4. And we'll capture that. This again, input, which we've already defined. So we're going to use our conditional. We're going to say if input is greater than or equal to 1. And we do it like this. So start with whatever it is, the greater than, the less than first, then followed by the equality. We also want to say equal or less than 4, so it can be inclusive of 1 and 4. Now, because we have two comparisons, basically it's this compound, we're doing an AND on this. Input less than equal to 4. And create a body with our braces. So we're going to do a cout now. Say the value of the array element, or actually in this case, this is going to be the index, the value of the index. We're going to do that first. So we'll just have input is, so the value of the index we're going to do first, the value of the index is, and the array element value is, and here we're going to do data. We're going to drop in this index using our brackets again. And I think that is good. Now I could add a carriage return here. What I'm going to do though is actually create a whole new line and just do a carriage return right there. Now another thing we want to do is handle the default case. So if this right here does not pass, this conditional, then we want to do something. And that's where this default else will come in. All we're going to say on this is you are providing an invalid value, like that. All right, so let's go ahead and run this. Here we are. All right, so we need to do this first one, so we're going to do 20 on that one. Let's see, please provide an index. So it looks like we went flying right past our CN. What is the issue here? Warning, expression resulted unused. And you'll notice the mistake I made here. I've actually got our arrows pointing the wrong way. So we're using it like it's a cout. But because this was a CN, C++ knew something was up with that. And I'm just going to go ahead and let that run. We don't have to worry about a return value. So now we're going to run this again. We should see our input the second round. Here we go. So please provide an index between 1 and 4. Let's do a 3. And we should have put a semicolon there and a space. All right, so the value of the index is 3 and the array element is 4. Now because these are 0 index based, when I put in a 3, it's actually going to get the element at position 4. So add 1 to your index. That's the position, the actual position. Because if I drop in a 0, and I'm going to put a little bit of spacing on this one. So let's run this one more time. We have a 20. And if I do a 0, actually the 0 is not valid. We should get our else in this case. You're providing an invalid value. So let's run it one more time. And 20, do a 1. And let's see here, we get a value of 2. So that one right there. Let's go ahead and relax this a little bit so we can take our 0. And we're going to do something like 15, pass in a 0. And we get the value of 1. So if I march along here using the index values, we have index 0, that's position 1. Again, just add 1 to whatever the index is. Index 1, we get number 2. And so on up to this one, which is index 4, we'll get a value of 5. So let's go ahead and try our index 4. There's 4. And you can see here we get a value of 5. So that is a look at arrays, and we created here an array with 5 elements, so they're fixed. You need to specify what size that array is going to be.